J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan. It was a quiet, still night. On the pirate ship, the Jolly Roger, Captain Hook paced up and down the deck, smiling grimly to himself. This was his hour of triumph, for he was sure that Peter Pan had drunk the poison medicine and was now dead. Better still, he thought, all the other boys were imprisoned in the hold of the ship. "Handcuff the boys and hoist them up," he cried. "Aye, aye," replied the pirates. The boys were lined up in front of Hook. "Now then, bullies," he said, "6 of you must walk the plank tonight, but I have room for 2 cabin boys. Which of you are to be saved?" He nodded at John. "You boy, you look as though you have a little pluck in you. All you have to do is swear, 'Down with the King,' and you can join us." "Never!" cried John.
Rule Britannia!
"Rule Britannia!" called the other boys boldly. "That seals your doom!" roared Hook. "Bring up their mother! Get the plank ready!" The boys went white with fear, but they tried to look brave when Wendy was led on deck. Smee tied her to the mast, but before the first boy could be forced to walk the plank, there was a sound which made Hook drop to his knees in terror. It was the tick-tick of the crocodile. "Hide me!" he cried. The pirates gathered round their captain, and the boys ran to the ship's side to see the crocodile climbing aboard. But it was not the crocodile they saw coming to the rescue. It was Peter. As he was crossing the island, Peter had seen the crocodile pass by without making its usual tick-tick noise. He had guessed that the clock inside the crocodile had run down and had decided to tick himself. The wild beasts would think he was the crocodile and leave him well alone. Peter had reached the shore safely and had swum out to the ship with only one thought in his head. "It's me or Hook this time." He did not realize that he was still ticking, even as he scaled the side of the ship. Once aboard, he stopped. Signaling to the boys to keep quiet, he tiptoed into the cabin. "The ticking stopped, Captain," cried Smee. Hook raised his head and listened. There was not a sound, and he drew himself up to his full height. "Then here's to Johnny Plank!" he cried, and dancing along an imaginary plank, he began to sing. Yo-ho, the frisky plank, you walks along it so, till it goes down, and you goes down to Davy Jones below. "We'll beat these boys with a cat o' nine tails. Fetch it from the cabin, Jukes." The pirate strode off to the cabin, and Hook continued his song. But he never finished it, for all of a sudden there was a dreadful screech from the cabin. It wailed through the ship and died away, to be followed by a crowing sound. "What was that?" cried Hook. "Checo, go to that cabin and find out what's the matter with Bill Jukes." Everyone listened as Checo did as the captain ordered. Again, there was a screech, and again, a crow. Hook seized a lantern. "I'm going to bring out that crowing doodle-doo," he said, and he sped into the cabin. A moment later, he came staggering out without his lantern. "I saw the bodies of Jukes and Checo," he said, "and then something blew out the light. Lads, I have an idea. Let's drive the boys into the cabin and let them fight the doodle-doo for their lives." The boys, pretending to struggle, were pushed into the cabin where Peter was waiting with the key to unlock their handcuffs. As soon as they were free, they seized whatever weapons they could find and crept out of the cabin. Peter tiptoed up to Wendy and cut her bonds. He whispered to her to hide with the others, and then took her place at the mast. He wrapped her cloak around himself, took a deep breath, and crowed.
Calico! Lads, it's the girl!
Cried Hook.
Throw her overboard!
They all rushed at the figure by the mast, who flung off his cloak and cried, "I'm Peter Pan, the Avenger! Down, boys, and at 'em!" In a moment there was the clashing of swords as the pirates ran here and there, striking wildly. The boys hunted them down in pairs, driving some into the sea and trapping others in dark corners. Only Captain Hook managed to keep them all at bay. He had just lifted up one boy with his hook and was waving at the others with his sword when Peter Pan leapt in front of him. "This man is mine!" cried Peter.
"Proud and insolent youth," said Hook, "prepare to meet thy doom."
Without more words, they began to fight. Hook was a superb swordsman, but his thrust was turned aside again and again. He was pierced in the ribs, and he began to fight without hope. As Peter flew towards him with dagger poised, he got ready to leap over the side. He did not know that the crocodile had followed Peter to the ship and was waiting hungrily below. He threw himself into the sea and perished in the crocodile's jaws. It was very late when the boys finally got to sleep in the pirates' bunks. The next morning, they put on pirate clothes cut off at the knee and followed Peter's orders to get the ship onto a homeward course. They would sail as far as the Azores and then fly the rest of the way. Many moons later, Wendy, John, and Michael flew through the open window of their nursery. It had not been closed since the night they flew away. They knelt in front of the kennel to see if Nana was inside. "It's Father!" shrieked Wendy. "Surely," said John. "He used not to sleep in the kennel." Of course, John and Wendy could not know that Mr. Darling had stayed inside the kennel since the night they had flown away. It was his way of punishing himself for chaining Nana in the yard on that terrible night. Suddenly, they heard Mrs. Darling playing the piano downstairs. "It's Mother!" cried Wendy. "Let's all slip into our beds, just as if we had never been away." And so, when Mrs. Darling came into the nursery, she saw the children in their beds. But she thought that she was dreaming and sat down sadly by the fire. For one awful moment, the children thought that she had forgotten them. "Mother!" they cried, and they leapt out of bed and ran into her arms. "George! Oh, George!" cried Mrs. Darling when she could speak. And Mr. Darling woke to share her happiness, and Nana came rushing into the room. Down below, the lost boys waited to give Wendy time to explain all about them. Then, when they had counted to 500, they went up the stairs and stood in a row in front of Mrs. Darling. Of course, she said at once that she would have them. Mr. Darling thought 6 extra boys rather a lot, but in the end he found enough room to fit them in. Only Peter would not stay. Mrs. Darling would not let Wendy return with him to the Neverland, but she agreed that Wendy should go for a week every year to help with his spring cleaning. Peter came to collect Wendy the following spring, and he came again 2 years later. But after that, he forgot. And the next time he saw Wendy, she was a grown woman. "Hello, Wendy," he said as he flew in through the nursery window. "I have come to take you to the Neverland." "I can't come," said Wendy sadly. "Peter, I grew up long ago. I am a married woman, and the child in the bed is my daughter, Jane." Peter looked at the sleeping child, and with a cry, he sank to the floor. He began to sob so loudly that Jane woke up. "Little boy, why are you crying?" "I have come for my mother, to take her to the Neverland." "Yes, I know," said Jane. "I have been waiting for you." Peter jumped to his feet, blew some fairy dust on her shoulders, and led her to the open window. "No! No!" cried Wendy. But she knew that she could not stop them. She stood watching as Jane and Peter disappeared into the sky, on their way to the land where children never grow up.